LaRae, do you remember Dr. O? Totally her real name. Super nice, first time dental practice owner, but sometimes we felt like our time with her could have been, how do you say, better spent. Specifically, for instance, like she would insist on us chasing down every single SRP denial like it was a criminal case.
Yeah, I remember her. SRP denials all the way up to those peer-to-peer consults, formal appeals, all because the insurance wouldn't pay for procedures that didn't meet coverage criteria.
Yes, and honestly, the issue wasn't really that the procedures were being denied or that they even like didn't meet the criteria. We knew about all of that, right? Like we kind of expected it because of the processing policies or from pre-estimates that were sent. It's that the patients were not being communicated with, that they were going to owe anything for this treatment. So even though there was a patient portion remaining for these, and rightfully so, the patients felt blindsided. And Dr. O was furious at the insurance companies.
Right, when the real issue was her own systems of estimating, because nobody was explaining patient portions to the patients. This practice owner was so focused on fighting outsiders like the insurance company, that they never actually looked to the inside and saw what was going on there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really frustrating kind of situation, I'm sure for her too, right? Because like another quick example was that she really wanted to and thought she should be able to charge her full UCR fees for her Invisalign orthodontic cases.
Yeah.
Even though she was in network with like a lot of carriers and she had agreed to specific fees for those codes.
Yeah, and that's honestly, that's not a hill worth dying on. That's a hill that she climbed up and then lit on fire.
So today, that's what we're breaking down. Practice owners. Which battles are worth your energy and which hills are you dying on for no good reason?
Welcome to the Truth Decay Podcast, talking dollars and cents with Sara Baker and LaRae McMullen.
So let's talk about sweet Dr. O. She was frequently kind of like losing her mind and putting a lot of energy and time and attention into those things we mentioned, specifically like those SRP denials and her orthodontic fees.
Yeah, she was focused on all of the external enemies, insurance companies, appeal boards, peer-to-peer reviews, you name it.
When the problem was actually inside her four walls, right? Like she kept doing SRPs that didn't meet coverage criteria for in-network providers, which is okay, right? Like if she diagnoses that that treatment is necessary and the patient would benefit from that treatment, she should absolutely be providing that treatment. But then like Groundhog Day, when those procedures would come back denied because of the criteria not being met, she would get angry because those claims were denied.
Yeah, and instead of informing patients about their out-of-pocket costs, the office would just submit those claims, like basically hoping for a miracle.
Right. And the patients, they weren't prepared to pay, right? Like they would get this treatment that was diagnosed for them and they would get good treatment. It would go to insurance with an expectation that insurance was going to pay even though they weren't. Claim would get denied, and then Dr. O would go full legal crusader mode, trying to chase money from the insurance companies that was really never collectible in the first place.
Yeah, all while refusing to look inside, like we mentioned before, internal systems, how patients were being prepped, how treatment was being communicated, and also how expectations were even set from the get-go.
So it was the same, honestly, with her ortho, right? Like, again, she really wanted to be able to charge her full UCR fees to in-network patients for her, like, big ortho cases. But she would focus on those EOBs coming back and her being told that she had to write, to adjust down to contracted fees. And she had agreed to those fees, right? So she's fighting something that she had agreed to. And there was so much energy going into this thing that was entirely predictable, you know?
Yeah, 100%. That's the key. She is the one who chose to stay in network. So the real hill that is worth climbing would be maximizing production within those perimeters that you agreed to when you went in network.
Exactly. So the reason that we're talking about this specifically, because it is something that we see sometimes with like new practice owners or younger practice owners or whatever, is that this is such an issue with a culture of avoidance versus a culture of accountability, right? Yeah. Because she took every denial personally, right? And honestly, I feel like it was kind of avoiding a little bit the idea that there was something that maybe she/her office/her systems were doing that needed to be changed, right? But it wasn't about her. Like, it was about the broken system that she was kind of avoiding and refusing to take accountability for and fix.
Right. She was chasing ghosts that are outside the office while the leak was actually right there under her feet inside the office.
Yes. So, like, our best advice for this subject, that, like, you know, $43 that was left over from a patient portion, like that denial, you being told that you need to adjust down, you know, your contracted fees, like, you got to look at some of these things as the cost of doing business. So you need to learn from these things and build better systems. Don't keep paying that price plus some over and over and over again.
For sure. But let's now talk about the good fights. So the battles that are worth showing up for. Here's a hill worth dying on. Your team should not be verbally abused by patients, like, ever.
Yeah, full stop. And I mean, when we were outlining this podcast, like, I just thought it was important to even take a beat when you're talking about hills to die on, when you're talking about where your energy should be spent, what conversations to have. Genuinely, like, one of the things I thought of is no one in the office should, regardless of a process, of a system, of anything, should ever feel threatened or disrespected or unsafe, right? And that does, I don't even mean physically. I mean, like, if a patient is verbally abusive to the staff, which I've experienced for sure, right? Like, that patient, it's not acceptable. And if your team feels unsupported by you, or like you don't have their back, genuinely, like, your whole system is breaking down and you don't have as good of a chance of being able to strengthen these things. You need your whole team on board and they need to feel like you have them.
Have their backs.
Yeah. And so I feel like this is really important. And this is absolutely a hill worth dying on, worth talking about, worth, you know, putting your energy into. So
yeah, totally agree. Another hill, goals, KPIs, progress. Mm-hmm. If you're not fighting for forward movement, you're just spinning. You need to know what you're fighting for.
Yeah. And when you see a reoccurring issue, right? Because again, we're advocating like monitoring and looking at your numbers and diving into them a little bit and going like, well, what is happening? Kind of, are we missing copays over and over again? Are you getting feedback that you're getting the same denials over and over again, like Dr. O did, right? On SRPs, for instance. Don't say, why did Sara mess this up again, right? Like laying blame. I need you to look at the system, right?
Yeah, you need to say what's happening at the point of check-in or documentation that is breaking down.
Right, because if it's happening over and over again, it is not necessarily like a Sara problem. It's a system problem. It's kind of everybody needs to be able to take ownership of this and learn from it and, you know, make sure that this is corrected.
Yeah, but here's the key. Don't obsess. Obsessing is what Dr. O was doing, and she's just spent hours and hours trying to win battles that she'd already lost.
Like, I really want you to hear me when I say this. You have to recognize when the money is already gone, right? I actually have said this multiple times privately, right? Like, you've heard me say this, LaRae, is that I think sometimes posted fees, procedures, they are seen like actual physical burlap sacks with a dollar sign painted on the side, right? And when there is the idea that you have to adjust something off, when something was missed and you now have to like go chase it, there's this feeling that you're taking a physical sack of money and throwing it away. But the truth is that money, your ability to collect, is theoretical. It's only as good as your systems will allow that money to be collected. So it is not concrete. That money that you posted is not concretely collected for you yet if you build the insurance, if you waited on the patient to have a copay. So you need to recognize when somewhere along the way your system has not kind of done what it's supposed to do, or it needs to be improved. And if there was a missed opportunity for something, recognize that money is gone. It's gone. So stop fighting it and stop laying blame about it, right? Like, you need to stop trying to chase something that isn't there.
Yeah, just consider it a one-off and learn from it. Improve your systems. Don't just keep bailing that water out of the boat. Find the leak.
That's the shift, right? It's from reactive to proactive, right? So like, if a code got denied and you're going to appeal it and you're going to do it over and over and over again, you got to ask yourself, why does this code keep getting denied? Like, how can we fix it? Instead of, again, like kind of feeling emotional about it or getting frustrated that somebody keeps doing something. Like, the blame isn't helpful. You have to be proactive about this and go, okay, like, what part of our system isn't working? How do we fix this? You have to stop being emotional and start being strategic, in other words.
That's how you move away from that culture of avoidance and move towards that culture of accountability that we were talking about earlier.
And offices that are proactive improve, right? Like, we see them have the capability of improving and growing and doing better. Offices that are reactive, you see burnout. You see people that don't want to keep trying, people that keep feeling like they're being blamed for things and they're not part of a solution. It's a bummer, and you don't see them improve.
Yeah. Let's recap what to look out for and what your team probably wishes that you already knew.
So here are some signs that you are dying on the wrong hill. Okay. So you're having the same conversation about the same write-offs over and over and over again. You, the practice owner, are obsessing over individual balances instead of workflows, right? And then also you're emotional about outcomes, but you're disengaged from the systems. You don't want to look at the system to see what's going on, but you're feeling something about, like being told that something was denied or not being able to charge what you want to charge. Like, you have to ask why, right?
Yeah. Also, ask your team what's stressing you out that could be solved with better systems. What denials do they see over and over again? What documentation do they wish that you had or that they had when they're submitting these claims, but they don't, so it's not in the charts? Your team knows the patterns and they just need to be heard. They want to fix the machine, not take the blame every time it misfires.
Yes. So, LaRae, what are 2 action steps that our listeners can do right now?
Well, I'd say do a 10-minute hill audit. Like, what hills are you dying on? Where did you spend your emotional energy last week?
That's a great idea. And then also related to something you said before, like, ask your team. Like, ask your team, what do we do that keeps causing stress and chaos?
Yeah.
Like, your team will be able to tell you. And kind of the same way that we talked about, your team needing to feel like you have their back and that you are supportive of them and you're not going to let them get abused and you're not going to let them just kind of fail, right? Your team will tell you, like, especially sometimes, and I think our brothers and sisters up at the front can agree with this maybe, is that sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect between the front and the back and like what is needed sometimes for the billing success, or like timing in terms of how long we get to talk to our patients before you take them back or whatever. So doing, kind of looking, like LaRae suggested, at your hill audit to see what kind of stuff have I been dealing with, over and over again? And then asking your team, like, what do you deal with all the time? And they might be able to tell you, we have a real problem with our SRPs getting denied. I am spending 20% of my week appealing SRP denials. You could make some improvements that would like help your staff significantly just from that conversation. So that is
they wouldn't be stressed out, but also you might save a little money with time management.
Exactly. So I think that's a really, really worthwhile place to put your time and energy. And yeah.
Okay, so then let's move forward. And can you start us out, Sarah, with our top takeaways for today?
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's important to acknowledge that doctors like Dr. O, and being frustrated with, kind of insurance shenanigans and, fees being low and SRPs getting denied when really, honestly, they should be allowed because it's trying to prevent a patient from having some kind of more severe, thing down the line. Those are frustrating. Those feelings are valid. Like, you can be frustrated with the state of, healthcare and all those things. But like, I do also really encourage everyone to remember that emotional energy is a limited resource, right? Like, you cannot, especially as a business owner, when there's so many things to think about and you're trying to run a practice, you cannot hyperfixate on every single denial, on every single thing that is outstanding, right? So like, we recommend that you spend your emotional energy solving the system, not reliving the error.
Yeah. Another thing to remember is a hill worth dying on should protect your team and also improve your processes.
Yes, absolutely. And number 3, like, one-offs are learning moments, right? And this is a little bit nuanced, but I do think that this makes sense, right? Like, if a single patient complains that they didn't know that there was going to be a patient portion due, a claim comes back denied and it was missing some kind of documentation, right? Like, look at it, learn from it, go, oh, okay, maybe this patient slipped past us. We need to do better at that, right? Or whatever. But patterns are something else entirely, right? So like, you need to learn from both of those things. And in both of those cases, you look at your system and you make sure that everybody is aware of like kind of what's happening. But instead of placing blame, look at it holistically, look at the process and address the process. Don't, lay all of the failure at the feet of individual things, because that's not going to solve anything. That's being reactive.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, that's we appreciate you guys listening today. Hopefully that has clarified where, you should be kind of putting your energy, which would be rad. If you liked what you heard today, everybody, like, please consider subscribing on whatever platform you are listening to. You can send us an email at hello@thetruthDecayPodcast.com or check us out at sddentalsolutions.com. We would love to answer your questions, address any other issues you might have. Let me know where you think your energy is being spent the most, and we can talk about it.
You can also find us on LinkedIn, both Sarah, myself, and SD Dental Solutions. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, so stop by and say hi if you are on any of those platforms.
Thank you all so much. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.